waking up with you on this Thursday, and we are all smiles here at the breakfast table because Thursday Night Football is hours away. Peter Schrager, Kyle Brandt,
What's up, Kay?
Nate Burleson,
What's up, Kay?
Kay Adams live in New York. We're going to talk to Tiffany Blackman. She's down there in Charlotte, and it's the Panthers and the Eagles. Lots of football to get to, so let's do it like you mean it, please. Time for the
Lead Block. All right, yesterday the NFL issued a statement saying in part that the league has no plans to mandate that players stand for the national anthem before the games. It went on to say that the NFL is doing their work, hard work, trying to move from protest to progress, working to bring people together. I spent time with the commissioner late last night, to discuss some of these issues. Check it out. Commissioner, how you doing? I appreciate you giving me the time. There's a lot going on the field and off the field, and I want to talk to you. I'm here in New York, you're here in New York, so I appreciate you. Now let's start off by the reports that there's going to be a policy change in the NFL that will force players to stand during the national anthem. Even our presidents came out and said that you were going to force players to stand. What can you say about that?
Well, Nate, there has been no policy change. What we've had is unprecedented dialogue over the last year with our players, our owners, with community leaders, law enforcement. And what we plan to do is have a very in-depth discussion with our players and our owners next week and make sure we truly understand the issues and also understand the approach that we want to take together with the players to address these issues in our communities.
Now, we have had many conversations, so I continue to hear the word dialogue. So for those that are watching and listening to your every word, just go into a little more detail about how that works from top to bottom, working with you and the players.
Well, you know, there are a couple of things. First, you have to have dialogue to listen to one another, to learn from one another, and frankly, to understand one another. We need more understanding. And that's what's happened for us over the last year with our players going into the communities, doing listen and learning tours, going on ride-alongs, listening to law enforcement, listening to community leaders, going to bail proceedings and seeing what the players have focused on is what they want to try to improve in their communities. And by sharing that with our owners support that effort. They understand this is important to our players and want to help them make a difference. And I think that's what's so unique about this is our owners and players coming together to help use the platform to make great changes in our community. Because the bottom line, Nate, is we all agree we want to make our communities better.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I went from the field to now working in the media, so I understand how diligent you are in bridging the gap and all the gaps that we have in the league. So I find this a unique opportunity. So I have to ask, what have you learned over the last few months to a year?
Well, I think the most important thing I've learned is how important this is to our players and how much work they've actually done in their communities to identify these issues and identify solutions, more importantly. And by sharing that with us and sharing that with our ownership, I think there's a deeper understanding of each other and how we can go about making our communities better collectively. And we want to support one another in that effort. And I think that's what makes me proudest of our players and makes us proud of our league.
Now, every week it's about what's happening now. You know, that's what everybody wants to pay attention to. What are the players doing pregame, postgame, and now off the field? But what are we going to do moving forward? I mean, the question is, how do we continue to progress, and what's your plan with this league moving forward?
Well, Nate, I think that's part of the issue here is that I think the real dialogue and the real issues have been overtaken by the controversy. And I think what we really want to try to do is get back to focusing on the actions that we want to take to really improve our communities and support our players to get those things done and get beyond the current situation into where we're really making a difference in the community and involved with action that is going to have a positive outcome for law enforcement, for our communities, for our country overall.
Now, getting to know you over the last couple years, I know that you move on your own accord. You're not pushed by anybody else's words, whether it's certain things that the players might say or even the president. But is there a sense of urgency in what you're doing and kind of getting this resolved?
Well, I do think there's a sense of urgency because we want to get into the communities and have a positive impact. And I think it's important for us to continue to work together. And I think the urgency that we all feel is continuing the work that we're doing, keeping focused on that, and having a positive outcome for our communities, for our players, for our teams, for our fans, and frankly for the leaders in our communities. And I believe that urgency is actually beneficial. But this isn't something that started 2 weeks ago. This is something that we have been focused on for well over a year. It's hard work. It requires patience and, frankly, a deeper understanding than, frankly, we're willing to give a lot of these issues. And I know our fans are focused on football as well as they should be, and we want to get that focus on football, but we want to support our players, support our communities, and help make them better.
Commissioner, as a guy who prides himself as being the voice of the players on the field, I appreciate you having an open heart and what's going on in the community, and also open ear to the players and listening to us talk. Have a good night.
It's been
I'll
great
see you
for
around.
all of us. Thanks, Nate.
Appreciate
See
it.
you.
Have a good night. That was taped late last night here in New York City. Nate, did you get your questions answered?
I did, because there was a lot of things being thrown around about what's happening on and off the field. And, of course, with the national anthem and players standing, kneeling, sitting, staying in the locker room, and everybody talking. And Roger Goodell wanted to get his voice out. Even the president had implied that Roger Goodell was going to make players stand. And I believe he said, you know what, I need to make sure people hear my voice. Instead of sending out a tweet, instead of doing a press conference, he said, listen, I want to meet with Nate, and we're going to have an impromptu sit down. And it worked, and I got everything answered that I wanted. There's a ton of more things that I would like answered. There's a ton of more things that players and fans would like answered. But the luxury of being in New York is that he's literally right down the street. And he said, listen, you can come anytime and talk to me. So he welcomed me with open arms and answered everything honestly.
I feel like there was a few words there, buzzwords maybe, dialogue, community, unity. I don't know anyone who's against unity necessarily. Right. You're saying there you're the voice of the players. Have the players reached out to you? Like, hey, you're meeting with the commissioner. I want this expressed. Was there any discussion since the interview or maybe even going into the interview?
Well, over the last couple of weeks, there have been players reaching out to me saying, hey, what's the deal? I know that you got your ear to the street, if you will, when it comes to the players on the field and what happens on the sideline with the coaches and even the front office and league offices. And they basically have echoed what I was asking, saying, well, how can they make us do anything aside from what's in our contract, which is playing football? I think what was great about Goodell, he said, listen, we're going to talk about this. We're trying to go from protesting to progressing. And that right there is everything that I wanted to hear. As long as he has an open ear to what's going on in the community and to the players, that's a great thing, because there were some players, maybe the younger generation of players, that might not know Goodell and might not know that he might be a league official, but he's for the players first, and that's what matters most. We run the league. There is no league without the guys in the jerseys, and Goodell understands that, and he appreciates what we stand for.
I think what resonated with me, his soundbite, was that the real dialogue has been overtaken by the controversy.
Yes.
I want to see a call to action. I want to see results, because I can only speak for fans who are on the couch watching these games on Sunday. I think the protest has become kind of confusing, kind of bloated, sort of vague. And you're left wondering, what is the reason? Colin Kaepernick did this 14 months ago. Is it now they're protesting because the president told them not to, or because there's Twitter followers who are saying nasty things, or they feel pressure?
They've gotten away from it.
Yeah, it feels that way. Or is it genuinely because they have a passion and a vision for how to deal with it? There's going to be books written about this. There's going to be a lot of chapters about who knelt and why they knelt. Yeah. I want to see the chapters of what became of it. I would love to see some results, and that's what he's talking about, getting out there, getting back to the core of what started with this, into the community, actually making changes. That's what I want to see.
Working to bring people together, as he said. Great. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Of course.
And doing that in such short notice late last night.
Yeah.
All right, you guys can tweet the show at #GMFB. We are so excited because Week 6 kicks off tonight. It is a huge showdown right here on NFL Network. We got a pair of 4-1 teams looking good. It's the Eagles and the Panthers. And we find our very own Tiffany Blackman live on the ground in Charlotte ahead of tonight's game, just a couple of hours away. Good morning, football. Tiffany, this is one of the marquee matchups that we've seen so far this season. Two division leaders are going head-to-head. What is the importance that they're putting on this game?
Well, Kay, Panthers linebacker Thomas Davis said this is essentially a fight for the #1 seed in the NFC. And a big reason for that is because of the play of their two quarterbacks. And we can start with the Panthers and Cam Newton. The biggest thing for him right now is that he is healthy coming off that shoulder surgery. And the way he put it, he's going to continue to get stronger and stronger, with Davis saying that he's an MVP caliber player and that he's playing like that right now. And as far as Davis is concerned, he said that arm strength for Cam, it is back based on the throws that we have seen him make. And as for Wentz said he's been watching Cam Newton since Cam came out of college, and he said it's going to be kind of fun for them to go head to head, with Wentz playing really solid football right now himself. His teammate Torrey Smith called him a beast that showed that he can make plays. Of course, Wentz right now, leading Cam Newton in passing yards and in touchdowns, but these guys putting up very similar numbers this season, and the similarities don't even stop there. Newton 6'5", Wentz 6'5.25". Of course, both of these guys very athletic, Kay, and they can each beat you with their legs.
Tiffany, now Eagles lineman Lane Johnson is out with a concussion. Fletcher Cox dealing with an ankle issue. How's this going to impact the way the game plays out?
Yeah, we can start with Cox. He's questionable right now. And Coach Ron Rivera called him dynamic, said that he can really have a big impact on the football game. And a good indication of that is the fact that you've seen the Eagles sack production go down over these last 2 games. They have just 2. When you look at it, the first 3 games when, Cox was in, they had 11. And then going to Johnson now, that's a significant impact. Your right tackle being out of this game in terms of trying to protect Carson Wentz, especially in this game when you consider that Panthers pass rusher Julius Peppers plays on that side. He's tied for 5th in the NFL right now in sacks. That entire unit playing really well right now, those pass rushers. I asked linebacker Luke Kuechly about them. Kuechly saying that, when you've got guys that can attack, from all sorts of positions, they can cause some problems up front and get pressure on the quarterback. They make everybody else's job a lot easier. And then he paused and was like, I don't know how many sacks we have. And I said 17. He said, that will work for us. They're 3rd in the NFL right now.
Yeah, top 5 in sacks. Great stuff, Tiffany Blackman. We'll be checking in with you throughout the show in preparation of Thursday Night Football back here at the breakfast table. Let's get into this thing, guys. What is one thing that you have keeping your eye on, Nate Burleson?
I'm looking at Nelson Aguilar. For wide receivers, we're like shooting guards. So once we catch a rhythm, coaches keep feeding you the rock. You look at how he started his career. He had some drops, had some injuries, and he kind of got in his head. Now it's on the flip side. Once you start making plays, you get in your own head, and you see yourself as an inflated version of what you see in the mirror. So I'm looking for him to continue what he's doing right here on a bigger level. And obviously, I want a bigger celebration.
He's got to do the plunge again.
I think Buddha Baker's still picking his pants up off of that one. Sorry, Buddha. Sorry, Buddha.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, Buddha. Speaking of Buddha, let's talk about another religion. Christian McCaffrey. That's what I'm looking for. Christian McCaffrey. We've seen Kareem Hunt on the big national stage on a Thursday night game against the Patriots run all over that defending Super Bowl champion defense. We've seen now Leonard Fournette in Pittsburgh had this huge game. McCaffrey's put up some good numbers, but he hasn't had that huge breakout primetime game. The nation is watching. You're the number 8 overall pick. I'm ready for the Christian McCaffrey show. I want to see him out wide, playing wide out in the slot and running back, and maybe even a little wildcat. Mike Shula, let him loose. I want to see Christian McCaffrey.
I think if we see him be successful, it'll be in the passing game. Both these teams so stout against the run, but I want to see the same thing as you. Both these teams can get the ball down the field. They can throw it deep. They're really good at converting 3rd downs. The Eagles, number 1. The Panthers, number 2. Points will be scored in this one in Charlotte, but the run, it all comes down to the run game for me. But Garrett Blount has to have a really strong, transcendental almost game, because what's going on is like the balance in that offense that's really helping Carson Wentz get it done. But you look at guys like LaShawn McCoy and Amir Abdullah, all been stuffed by this Panthers run game. They're allowing less than 3.5 yards a carry. So I'm really looking at him to get something done. Go with Garrett Blount.
Sure, we love Garrett Blount here. And, we're talking about Cam and Carson and Christian. Those are fine, but the big name tonight is Halapoulivaati Vaitai, guys. You got to remember him. That's the big man.
Bless you.
Halapoulivaati Vaitai.
Big V.
Big V.
Okay.
I don't. I call him Halapoulivaati Vaitai. He is a second-year guy out of TCU, and he will be playing right tackle for the Eagles tonight because, as Tiffany mentioned, Lane Johnson out with a concussion. This matters. Lane Johnson is Carson Wentz's best friend. The wide receivers are great. Carson Wentz without Lane Johnson, 6 touchdowns, 12 picks, 2 wins. Whoa. 8 losses. And there's a guy out there for the Panthers who has 149 career sacks. I think Carson Wentz is going to be scrambling tonight. You know why I love that? It is fun to listen to Tony Romo when the quarterbacks are scrambling and the pass rush is coming, because he gets so excited. He'll be like, whoa, look out, here he comes. Zap, boom. He gets so into it. It's like the X Games. So I'm looking forward to Romo with a special appearance by Halapoulivaati Vaitai.
Say it one more time.
Halapoulivaati Vaitai.
I love
Anytime. That's my guy.
Onomatopoeia?
Exactly right. Pop.
Well done by everybody. Talking much more of this game with Tiffany Blackman. We're going to take a short break right now. We'll talk to Ian Rappaport as well. He's got an update on Tom Brady. Ooh, is that where this injury happened right there? Ooh.
Yeah.
They've got the Jets this